With the government on its knees and the country plunged into chaos, we can provide you with a little bit of stability. You'll be pleased to know we're just as useless and chaotic as we've always been.
This is Partners in Crime with Adam Croft and Robert Dawes.
Another week, Bob, and nearly Christmas.
Yes, have ourselves a merry little Christmas. And to all our listeners, hello. We're nearly there. Building very swiftly towards a happy conclusion, hopefully for everyone, on Christmas Day. Yes, well, yeah, chaos. Well, I suppose it's been chaos this morning because, of course, I let you down. I should have been here much, much earlier. But, of course, there was a school obligation for my eldest daughter that I wasn't informed about. And so that sort of caused chaos this morning.
Well, I actually got some writing done, so, all's not lost.
No. Well, that's fine. Thank you for accommodating.
I was going to say, what I was doing while I was waiting for you, I was looking at some news in the crime fiction sphere. There's actually quite a bit this week that I think is of interest. First of all, congratulations to Mark Billingham, friend of the show. He's just signed up for 3 more books with his series, Tom Thorne Books. Another
Fantastic.
3 of those coming. The 20th will be published in 2020. He's another 3-book deal with Little Brown. He's now sold, I think, just over 5 million copies of his books now, with 20 of them out so far. So, congratulations to him. More Tom Thorne to come. That's a good start. I think he's been with them since the start, Little Brown.
Has he? I'm not sure. In fact, I am sure that I don't know that. But I'm delighted. I mean, that's fantastic for all Mark's fans. I mean, as we've said and we've heard on this show, he's a great advocate for crime writing, as well as being an international bestseller of huge renown. And it's just great fun. Yeah. And he's a musician, as we've gone into some detail. Anyone who's heard him singing and playing his guitar will know that he's a man of many talents.
Yes, or they will have worked that out once their ears had stopped bleeding. Congratulations also must go to another friend of the show, Val McDermid. She's been given an honorary degree by St Andrews University. She's sold more than 15 million books, translated into 40 languages. I mean, I don't know why I'm telling you this. Everyone knows who Val McDermid is. But yes, many congratulations to her for being made an honorary graduate of St Andrews University.
St Andrews, the Royal University, is it not? That's where the royal family tend to send.
Well, yes. I mean, and she's
kids.
Val, of course, famously from a kind of working class background, and in her speech, she said, "I should not be here. I say that not out of any false modesty or imposter syndrome, but I say it because when I was growing up, people like us didn't aspire to the life I have had." Well,
doesn't that say it all? I mean, a woman of huge intellect and great creativity and being rewarded in those sort of circles. So, yeah, she deserves to be there. I mean, she was at Oxford. She went to Oxford, for goodness sake.
I believe so, yeah.
And, again, a huge fan of Val. So that's good news. That's an honorary degree. Sort of matches your honorary degree from Bedford.
Honorary doctorate, thank you very much.
You're a doctor?
Yeah.
Oh, God. So does that mean she can't write prescriptions, but you can?
That's right, yeah. So if somebody falls ill on a plane, then I get a better table at the restaurant than Val does.
That's it. I mean,
I think it's degree, then you get your masters, don't you? And then the doctorate is there around or above PhD, I think. So.
Oh, is that what it is? I've got no idea of the hierarchy of
I think so.
Well,
I mean, that's if you actually earn them. I mean, if you just get given them like I was, then it doesn't really count. But if you earn them, I think that's the order they go in.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that.
Yes. I saw also in the news something that's not necessarily congratulations, but interesting of note. It's a kind of thing we touched on before in terms of true crime series and what's the word I'm looking for? Not glamorizing, but the putting focus on real life crimes. And Netflix do it, and it's enormous. True crime podcasts are enormous. True crime series are enormous on TV, and Netflix has announced that they are adding to their growing number of true crime shows with a program called Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes, which is going to be a 4-part docu-series examining the life of serial killer Ted Bundy, who, after admitting to killing 30 women during the 1970s, was executed for his crimes. And this is something we've brought up a few times before, whether this kind of link between fact and fiction, whether that's a good thing. We're kind of, how much focus we should be putting on real-life crimes. I mean, with crime fiction, you've always got the excuse, I suppose, that it's not real. That's the safety net, isn't it? But
yes. Well, it is a safety net. I mean, it is a story. It is make believe. It is fiction, as opposed to the reality. But it's interesting that there's such a huge audience for real crime. Is that echoed? Are we talking about? Does anyone have stats on this? Does it echo the huge interest in fictional crime writing, for instance, or does it go hand in hand? I mean, are people who read crime fiction going to be very interested in real crime, or I don't know. I suppose.
Well, no, I think the audiences are different.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I mean, true crime podcasts certainly have lots of people listening to them, which is obviously more than our 4 listeners. So yeah, they're very, very popular.
Well, but that's what's quite interesting, because there was that hybrid we were talking to Simon about with his show, which was taking fiction writers to the.
It's Simon Toyne, Written in Blood.
Yeah, absolutely, taking them back over real life crimes that have inspired them to write fictional stories based partly or pretty much completely on a true life crime incident.
Yeah.
So there's a crossover.
Well, it is, yes, and also it's a lovely segue. Thank you, Bob. Completely unintentional, but perfectly done. Into an email we had from Sarah Leck a week or so ago, who says, "Hello, Adam and Bob. Just wanted to say thanks for recommending the Written in Blood series by Simon Toyne. I think the idea of a crime writer trying to solve a true crime is a brilliant idea. I've really enjoyed the current series. I love your podcast and never miss an episode, even if Bob does. Keep up the good work, and thanks again, Sarah."
Oh, thanks, Sarah. That's very good of you.
Yeah. And we have had some issues with our emails, so they are now coming through. We did wonder why it was a bit quiet.
I don't know this. This is admin stuff. Have we had some issues?
We have, yes, but they are now coming through, as evidenced by that one. Oh. We do get round to them eventually. But if you want to get in touch with us, the email address is hello@partnersincrime.online. You can send an email through the website, partnersincrime.online. We're on Twitter @CrimeFicPodcast, and we are Partners in Crime on Facebook. We've got a little Facebook group running now as well, haven't we?
Oh, of course we have. Right, well, that doesn't segue into anything I've got to say, but so I'm going to get stuck in with my recommendations for the week. Why am I singing that? Oh, that's a cinema version, isn't it, for advertising?
I wasn't going to stop you.
Well, no, you didn't. I was expecting you to, and unfortunately you let me run right through to the end of that, rather embarrassingly. Okay, my first recommendation of the week. I've got 2 novels and a TV coming up, so here it is. The first one is a new novel by Megan Abbott, well, out this year, certainly, called Give Me Your Hand. Megan Abbott at her very best. Cool, crisp, chilling, says Paula Hawkins, author, as we all know, of The Girl on the Train. The plot. You told each other everything. Then she told you too much. Kit has risen to the top of her profession and is on the brink of achieving everything she wanted. She hasn't let anything stop her. But now someone else is standing in her way. Diane. Best friends at 17, their shared ambition made them inseparable. Until the day Diane told Kit her secret. The worst thing she'd ever done. The worst thing Kit could imagine. And it blew their friendship apart. Kit is still the only person who knows what Diana did. Diane did, and now Diane knows something about Kit that could destroy everything she's worked so hard for. How far would Kit go to make the hard work, the sacrifice, worth it in the end? What would she give up? Diane thinks Kit is just like her. Maybe she's right. Ambition. It's in the blood. Give Me Your Hand is the latest blistering thriller from Megan Abbott. Well, I recommend that because it's being recommended by everyone I'm talking to as a brilliant read. I have a copy. I haven't read it myself, but I fully intend to. So Give Me Your Hand by Megan Abbott.
It does sound very, very good, I must say. And of course, it's going to sell loads because with a name like Abbott, she's going to be first on the shelves as well. So that's a little Brucey bonus.
That's pretty good, yes.
But yeah, that does sound fantastic. And I am going to get myself a copy of that. Do you know where I'm going to get it from?
Where?
I think I might get it from Kobo.
Oh, what a very good idea.
Yes. In fact, well, if I hadn't already claimed my discount, what I would do is exactly what you should be doing right now. You should be heading over to, well, not right now, listen to this first, but afterwards, head over to kobo.com, find the book that takes your fancy, like Give Me Your Hand by Megan Abbott, and if you enter the promo code CRIME at the checkout, you'll get 90% off from the lovely folks at Kobo. Speaking of Kobo, I'll let you go on with your other recommendation in just a moment.
Thank you.
Speaking of Kobo, they put something up on their blog recently about... at the end of the year, they go into all the different trends. They look at the most read books of the year.
Yeah.
And this week they've told us what the Canadians have been reading mostly in 2018. And Kobo, of course, is a Canadian company. Apparently, Canadians are their most active readers. They've read an average of 73 hours this year. And some Kobo customers read 8 hours a day, which is a full-time job.
Extraordinary.
Their top 10 best-selling titles of the year: The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn, Origin by Dan Brown, The Alice Network by Kate Quinn, Fire and Fury, the story of Donald Trump's White House by Michael Wolff, The Lightkeeper's Daughters by Jean E. Penzivol. I think that is...
Penzivol.
I probably should have looked at this list before I started reading it out.
Polish, I think.
I'm not sure, possibly. Yeah.
Polish-Canadian. Canadian-Polish.
The Fallen by David Baldacci, Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan, The President is Missing by James Patterson, Fear by Bob Woodward, and Year One by Nora Roberts. Now, what's really interesting, these are the best-selling titles. Kobo, of course, through their readers, they can see what you've actually read. So a lot of books are being bought but not read. So that's the top 10. The top 10 books that are actually read: The 17th Suspect by James Patterson,
of course,
The Wife by Alifair Burke, The Great Alone by Kristin Hanna, The Home for Unwanted Girls by Joanna Goodman, The Late Show by Michael Connolly, The Party by Robin Harding, It's Always the Husband by Michelle Campbell, The Key by Catherine Hughes, Still Me by Jojo Moyes, and China Rich Girlfriend by Kevin Kwan. Now what's interesting is that the top 10 on both lists, most bought books and the most read books, are completely different. There's not a single book that is...
Now, have they given an explanation for that?
Well, no. I mean, there are only two authors who are on both.
Well, James Patterson being one.
James Patterson and Kevin Kwan.
Yeah.
They're the only two who are actually on both lists, I believe, looking at this.
Well, that's briefly fascinating. So people buy books. I mean, it doesn't mean the books they bought aren't going to be read. I mean, like us. I mean, we have got so many books that we read and whatever. We're constantly behind.
You can still imagine that the most bought books are still the most read books.
Yeah.
You can still imagine so.
Well, that's interesting. It'd be interesting to see whether the stats work by looking at the books that have been read on previous months, to see whether there is some backlog when someone buys them, whether there's a time period between them being bought and when they're actually finally read. Because that list of read, the top 10 read books, may be books that were bought 3-4 months ago.
Quite
so
possibly.
Maybe that's people just getting through their pile.
Yeah, this is across the course of the year. I mean, Donald Trump will be pleased, because Fire and Fury, one of the best-selling titles of the year, not one of the most read. So
no, well, I've read Fire. No, of course, Fire and Fury. But
he'd be pleased that no one's read it. That's a good thing.
What's interesting on that list? Another thing that's interesting is it's got The President is Missing by James Patterson. But I think there was another author attached to that book.
Yes. Yeah, Bill Clinton.
Oh, well, yes. I
don't know how much he wrote it.
Oh.
To be honest, I don't know how much James Patterson wrote it, but it's...
Well, can you actually have two books that people only partially wrote? I suppose, I don't know, but I mean, it's advertised as Bill Clinton and James Patterson.
There are some authors who I know who put out, not who I know of, who put out a huge number of books, and you think, how can they possibly write that many books? And the answer is they don't. Not mentioning any names, of course, and not linking that with Mr. Patterson, but just thought that might be something to bring up.
Well, I know he absolutely admits to writing the books with other people.
Oh, yes, James Patterson does, yeah.
You know, I've heard this. We've talked about this with about Dick Francis, and Dick Francis would write his book, but in actual fact, he'd come up with detailed ideas and all the information. And Mrs. Francis, his wife, Felix's mother, of course, would actually do a lot of the writing. So that's a sort of a partnership. I mean, in other areas, we're beginning to find out that Alfred Elgar worked with his wife, and she had a huge influence on the writing of his music. Edward Elgar. Did I say Alfred?
I was about to say, I thought you were going to say that was his brother or his son or his father who'd been helping him out.
I know an Alfred Elgar. That's why. Sorry, Alfred, if you're listening. No, I meant Edward. The one with pomp and circumstance and all that sort of stuff, which of course our listeners know only too well. But when his wife died, of course, emotionally it hit Elgar, but his work was never quite the same again. So there's a sort of not a conspiracy theory, but that was, of course, a time when one of the reasons his wife did that is because she couldn't come out in the open in those times 100 years ago and say, I'm a creative person. That doesn't exist, thank God, anymore, and hasn't for some considerable time. So yeah, interesting that who actually writes the books.
Yeah, and with painters as well and their students. I know historically a lot of them have. It's been unclear who's actually painted things, whether it's them or their students, and people have worked together on things. And I guess it happens in all sorts of things. People work collaboratively. It's not something I've ever done.
You don't hear
I've
about
got no one else I can blame for mine.
But you hear of collaboration in writing in so many different areas. I mean, you take a look at your average series on Netflix or whatever. I mean, one I'm about to recommend. I mean, I'm sure that's got a team of writers, or certainly 5 or 6 different writers, and it's beginning to happen sort of more and more. Where comedy happened for years, is that there'd be the writing room, as we all know,
especially with American sitcoms. It was
American sitcoms or whatever, and for some reason it's never quite happened in the UK, not for sort of single pieces. It's happened for sketch shows and various other things like that.
I think it's because we have to get on with other people if we do that.
Yes, I suppose so. Us in the writing room, I can see it working. But who writes the book? It's like that joke. How many people does it take to change a light bulb? How many people does it take to actually complete a best-selling crime novel? Well, usually one, it has to be said, and a team of other people, as we all know, editors and publishers and whatever. So back to your list. Interesting, these Kobo figures.
They are, yeah. It's I just found it fascinating, actually. That it wasn't something I was going to mention because a lot of the books aren't crime, but the fact that the top 10 best-selling books are not the top 10 best-read books, or the books that people have actually finished. It's it just surprised me, really. You'd still expect the popular ones to be the popular ones. I mean, most people won't read the books they buy. We accept that, but you'd still think that at least there'd be a couple of books on the list that were on both, but no, there's barely any authors that are on both.
Oh, well, this is a mystery.
Yep.
That's silenced us, hasn't it, really? We've opened a can of worms here. We'll get an email from Obo saying, what are you talking about? But anyway, okay, so I'm going on to my next recommendation now of a book that I'm sure is it is a bestseller, and I'm sure it's on the best read top 10 at the same time. It's a book called Breathe by Dominic Donald. It's a remarkably accomplished, said the Observer. Casts a magic spell, says the Mail. Deeply impressive, of course, says the Evening Standard. London, 1952. Dick Borton is not like the other probationer policeman in Notting Hill. He's older, having fought in Europe and then Korea, and he's no Londoner, being from Cotswold farming stock. Then there's Anna, the exotically beautiful white Russian fiancée he has brought back to these drab streets and empty bomb sites. She may as well come from a different planet. The new copper also has a mind of his own. After an older colleague is shot by a small-time gangster they are chasing in a pea-soup fog, something nags at Borton's memory. He begins to make connections which his superiors don't want to see, linking a whole series of deaths and the fogs that stop the city in its tracks. Desperate to prove himself and his theories, Borton fails to notice the fear which his mysterious bride is doing her best to conceal and overcome. Soon, both Anna and Borton are taking dangerous paths into the worst fog London has ever known. Now, there we are, that's a period. If you like your period crime, this sounds just a sort of thing for you. The writer, I believe, the trigger for the final murder spree of an actual London serial killer was indirectly the city's worst ever smog in December 1952. So then, this is something that's sort of based on a real life, going back to that, a real life crime that Dominic Donald has read about and has made a link, and out of this has come this obviously very accomplished crime novel. So that's fascinating. It's the sort of thing we don't have in this country anymore. We don't have those great pea supers. For those of you who don't live in the UK and have never heard the phrase, pea supers are what we used to call the big fogs, which were caused primarily by coal burning and wood burning fires, which predominated, of course, in the 40s and 50s and for many decades before that. But they built up these huge, lethal fogs. I mean, that would stop people in their tracks. And I know we have an awful lot of pollution in our cities now, but these were absolute sweeping killers. So there we are. This sounds like an extraordinarily backdrop to this time in London, 1950s, fascinating just after the war, rationing still in, the streets, lonely streets, fog-bound and dangerous, quite clearly, not only environmentally, but at the hands of a serial killer. So there we have Breathe, or Not Breathe, as might be the subtitle, by Dominic Donald, my second recommendation for the week.
The detective's name there, is that Dick Barton?
Yes, I thought that was a misprint, not Dick Barton.
I was going to say, because there's a series of plays, I think, isn't it, with Dick Barton, the detective, the hapless...
Well, Dick Barton was one of the biggest legendary radio detectives of the 1930s and 40s. Dick Barton. I mean, very
completely
famous.
Useless bumbling detective.
No, I think he was pretty good, actually.
Was he?
Yes, I think he was pretty good. And there have been sort of adaptations and plays and various other things. In fact, there's one touring the country even as we speak. So, no, Dick Barton was a famous radio detective. I didn't know whether that came from a literary background or whatever, or whether he was just created for the radio. I don't know whether he's ever been done on television. I'm sure he has at some point, but yes, no, I think he was, my understanding was Dick was rather suave, sophisticated, and man in a mat with the hat pulled down over his the trilby pulled down over his eyebrows, and was rather effective. But but this is Dick Barton.
It does just sound like you're saying his name wrong.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, it won't be the first time that's happened.
It does sound like a great book, though. I've got to say, it does sound like a good book.
Now, here we go. Now, TV. Have you got a TV choice this week?
I have. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's one that you recommended to me
It's
off
that
air.
good.
You recommended it to me off air, and I've watched the first 2 episodes. It's called... let me get this right. Dark Heart, I think, is it called?
Oh, Dark Heart. Yeah, Dark Heart. Chris Lang. Yeah.
Yes, that's the one. Yes, you recommended it to me. It's very, very good. It's you're talking about things being similar. The storyline to that is actually remarkably similar to a book that I wrote. Called Rough Justice. It's about a vigilante. The first 2 episodes in the series are about a vigilante killers going out and killing child sex offenders. Who have got off or not gone through the justice system. And I wrote a book called Rough Justice about that in 2015. I was watching this and I thought, this is very similar. And when you have the reveal at the end as well, who did it, I thought, okay, this is the same as my book. I thought, this is very, very odd. I looked up the book it was based on.
Yes.
My book was written, I think, in 2015. The book it was based on was written in 2009. So I thought, oh, okay, well, I can't complain about that.
Because there's an author somewhere saying, have you seen that Adam Cross? It's just like my plot. Well, anyway, here we go. How many plots are there? I mean, if you go back to basic storytelling rules, the mighty Campbell has always said there are only a certain number of stories from which all other stories go from. So it's very hard, especially in all areas of fiction. An idea may come to you totally originally, but someone else may have already written it.
Yeah.
But of course, no one.
There's so many uncanny similarities. If I was the other author, I'd be worried. I mean, I was worried anyway. Yeah. I thought, has he read my book? And then I realised that his was actually written 6 years earlier. I thought,
have I read his book?
No, hands up. Never heard of him. Never heard of the book. But it was a very, very strange thing. So
Well, there are, as I say, I
Very good,
it sort of happened to me once,
better than mine, I must say.
on a
Better
television thing. I sent out various things, treatments for a crime thing, which were sort of turned down. And about 4 years later, almost identical television series appeared, made by a company who I'd actually sent the treatment to. So conspiracy theories abound, and you just go, well, what can you do? I mean, I've heard terrifying stories from certain writers or whatever about their stories being pinched, but it's incredibly hard to prove. And anyone who brings any legal action for plagiarism or whatever invariably gets their case dismissed for the very reason that it is hard to prove. But there we are.
There is one TV series, we've spoken about this off air, I think, a few times. I'm not going to talk about it on air in any detail, where I have noticed actually across 2 series, so across 12 episodes, I did notice 4 of my plots, or what I thought were my plots, and obviously I'm not making any accusations at all, but 4 that were very similar across 12 stories, and that's in that kind of traditional mystery kind of thing. So as you say, it's very difficult to actually even if you look at Agatha Christie's own output, quite a lot of the storylines or the reveals were kind of reused across even her own books. So and the same with lots of other mystery writers. It's very difficult, and there are only a certain number of ways of doing things. So it's quite extraordinary actually. If you've written a lot of books, or then you will start to see patterns and things there.
I've got I've got a great idea for a TV series called The Plagianator. He goes looking for possible people who've nicked other people's ideas by just breaking into the author's home, going into their studies, looking at taking photographs of their bookcase, and if there are a lot of Adam Croft books in there, which actually correlate with exactly the same plots
with
as
little
on the
post-it
television.
notes in them. Nick this bit.
They get taken out. Well, there we are. Well, there we go. Okay, on to my TV one. Well, actually, I'm going to mention one thing about Chris. I mean, Chris Lang, as we know, is one of our most successful, if not the most successful, writer of television crime at the moment. Unforgotten was winning all sorts of things and being recommended internationally as a wonderful series, and justifiably so. He also writes, as we've said on this show, a series in France and around the world and various other things, and Dark Heart and all the rest of it. I mean, he's extraordinary. But I noticed the other day he sent me a thing saying that so many people have asked him about his scripts and his treatments and various other things. He's actually published them on his website.
Oh, wow.
So that people can actually download them, and you can actually just see what the treatments, how he's prepared his treatments to get his shows done, and the finished pilot scripts to lots of his work. So if you're in the vein in the mood to read sort of television fiction and are interested in original scripts from Chris, then, or you want to write your own and want some sort of pointers and just see what the master has done and how he's achieved it, then go to Chris Lang's website and download a few of his original pilot scripts and his treatments. It might be quite interesting.
I am going to do that.
It will be quite interesting.
It's also worth mentioning on Dark Heart, which is a fantastic series, and you should absolutely watch it. If you're in the UK, you can get that on the ITV player. I noticed last night it expires the day after this podcast goes out, Saturday the 15th of December in the evening. So if you're listening to this on release day or on Saturday the 15th of December, do go and download that immediately from the ITV player and watch it before the end of Saturday, because I think the first episode or two will be gone after that. So
okay.
Get hold of it when you can. Okay,
now here's my television recommendation. I'm going to read a little paragraph of plot and see if it resonates with anyone who might have seen it already, and I'm sure there are many who are, because as usual I'm late to the party on this. Cora Bender killed a man, but why? What could have caused this quiet, lovable young mother to stab a stranger in the throat again and again until she was pulled off his body? For the local police it was an open and shut case. Cora confessed. There was no shortage of proof or witnesses, but Police Commissioner Rudolf Grovian refused to close the file and began his own maverick investigation. So begins the slow unravelling of Cora's past, a harrowing descent into a woman's private hell. Sound familiar? Names sound different? Well, that's because I have been watching this week I have mostly been watching The Sinner Series 1. Series 2 is out already, but I'm starting with Series 1 on recommendations of lots of my friends, and I have to say I think it's superb. The television series starts with Cora Tanetti. See what they've done there? Played by Jessica Biel, leading a mundane life until one day, while enjoying a picnic with her husband and baby, she gets up, walks over to a man called Frankie Belmont, and violently stabs him to death with an apple peeler in front of everyone. She admits the crime, but has no memory of why she did it. Enter Detective Harry Ambrose, not Police Commissioner Rudolph Grovian, played by Bill Pullman, the wonderful Bill Pullman, who won't accept she is a cold-blooded killer and instead believes she must be suppressing something that spurred her on to commit such a heinous crime. Cora's story then slowly unfolds over 8 episodes.
You know, we were talking about people nicking things from others.
Yes.
You know, I gave that as a recommendation about 6 months ago on this show.
Did you really? The Sinner?
Yes.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, on Netflix, I think it was. Yeah.
You see, I hang on his every word, listeners. Quite clearly. Well, there we are. I have admitted that I'm catching up to it. So I knew someone had told me to watch it, and I think I didn't. It was you. It was Adam Croft.
On this show, yeah.
Okay.
Although the Cora Tanetti, so see what they did there. I don't see what they did there.
Well, I'll tell you what they did. What they did there. It originally came. It's an adaptation. An American adaptation, in this case, clearly, of a book by the German writer Petra Hammersfahr, who's hailed as Germany's Patricia Highsmith. Mm-hmm. She wrote the dark spellbinding novel. It was at the top of the bestseller list, and it's been reprinted 16 times and sold over 760,000 copies in Germany, translated into 11 languages. And this is it's the first Hammersfahr title that's been published in England. So there we are. That's where it came from.
I've got that book as well. I've not read it.
You see?
Is that what it's based on?
Yes.
Oh, right.
We're connecting the dots here.
I'm scouring my bookcases for it now because I thought Petra Hammersfahr. Yes, I know that name. I've got a book. Yes, The Sinner. Now that all makes sense.
Well,
okay.
it's brilliantly done.
I'm the one who's behind the curve, then, not you.
Yes, but you see, it all soaks in. There's a process of osmosis.
We've both learned something today.
You sparked this off months ago. It's obviously staying with me. But if you haven't seen it, this is Series 1. Please do. I mean, I think it's very well done. Jessica Biel is superb. All the company are very good. Bill Pullman, the wonderful Bill Pullman, who is just about to star in Arthur Miller's All My Sons with Sally Field at the Old Vic in London this year. So they're visiting to give their All My Sons, which is an extraordinary play if you haven't had the chance to watch that. I think the first huge success that Arthur Miller ever had in the 1940s. Anyway, Bill Pullman's going to be over here doing that. There is a second series, The Sinner Series 2, it's called, quite obviously, which I think is recently out, so I'll be catching up with that too. But if you haven't caught up with Series 1 and you want to start, may I recommend my colleague's recommendation of several months ago of The Sinner Series 1, and maybe he'll pick up the book on his bookshelf from which the original story was adapted.
There it is, right in the bottom left down there. Can you see?
Right on the bottom
left.
left.
Right in the very bottom left.
Yeah, there's a book called The Sinner down there.
Yes.
Could that possibly be it?
I'm going to go and read that one, I think.
There we are. Good. Anyway, recommendations over.
Well, that's all I've got as well. I'm very hyped up now that there's a book not only about that the great TV series is based on, but I've already got it and I don't need to part with any money.
Isn't that nice to know?
I'm going to go and read that now.
All comes. I love it when a plan comes together.
Indeed, yeah, yes.
So, what have you got coming up over the next couple of days? Christmas.
I'm going to read a book called The Sinner.
Yes, of course. Well, I never heard of Petra Hammersfahr, but I have now. So,
I knew the name from somewhere.
Well, I'm going to continue watching the television series.
Yes.
So, are we having a Christmas special next week? We
are going to have a Christmas special. Yeah, we noticed the next episode is due to come out on, I think, the 22nd of December.
Yes.
So, we're going to have a bit of a Christmas special. I think we're going to put on some silly hats, basically. Sorry, 21st of December it's going to come out. So, we'll put on some silly hats and
again
something there. Yeah.
Oh, you mean we're going to dress up? Is this going to be a visual
Well, yeah, we'll do the video. I think we'll put the video back on. For
Okay, all right, listeners, this is a week's warning. We are going out next week with a visual representation of our podcast. For those of a delicate disposition, be warned. We will be sitting here in funny hats, Christmas hats.
Well, yes, yeah, not just like pirate hats.
Oh,
and things.
fine,
I mean,
okay,
like, Santa hats.
The full white bobble and redness,
Yeah,
and are you gonna add some sort of plimsoll whitener to your beard to give a little bit of the old
I could do, yeah.
ho ho ho.
Yeah, I've got some silver grey comb through stuff that I could put through that. So yeah, I could do that.
Well, I'll get myself an elf onesie, and
maybe we should swap the coffee for mulled wine. That'd be a good idea, wouldn't it?
that will make for a very interesting show.
Yeah, walk down next week. Don't drive down, walk down, have some mulled wine.
How marvellous. Well, there we are. As if I needed any other reason to actually come and visit you here at Shaycroft.
Although we must say, the week after that, due to Christmas and Boxing Day and everything being all across our usual recording days, the next week's episode will be out on time, but the episode after that and the one following might be a day or two behind. It might end up coming out on the Saturday or the Sunday instead of the Friday for a couple of weeks due to Christmas getting in the way of recording schedules. We're still going to do episodes.
And mulled wine.
Yes, and mulled wine. We'll still do the episodes, but might be a couple of days behind.
Christmas pudding.
You're getting really excited about this now, aren't you?
Too much turkey.
You're just going through all the things you're going to have.
Piccalilli and ham sandwich.
Oh, I forgot what we meant to talk about.
What?
We've been talking about I'm a Blooming Celebrity, haven't we, the last couple of episodes?
I think it's been mentioned.
It's now over. And Emily, your niece, did absolutely brilliantly. She came in second place behind Harry Redknapp, National Treasure, and ahead of John Barrowman, another National Treasure. So...
yeah, I mean, we're so proud of her. It's unbelievable. She's up tomorrow, so we're having a big party to celebrate her return. She's our kid's done well, and I think it's something to do with the simple fact that that's just her. As I've said before, what you see with Emily is what you get. She's a very talented, and a lovely, lovely woman, and I'm so glad that people have had the chance to see that. There's no side to her. And even so, watching it, I mean, we know what she's capable of. She's one of, I think, I know she's a relative, so I would blow the family trumpet on this one, but I think she's one of the superb mimic.
Oh, she is.
She can. She's the voice of them all. She really is.
I was saying to my wife actually when we were watching that she's obviously got her mum's genes in terms of being an impressionist. So her mother being Kate Robbins. So yeah, I think definitely that's a potential route to go down in terms of.
She's getting all sorts of exciting offers coming through, but also, you see, her sister Martha, the wonderful Martha, is an unsung hero in all this because she's an agent and she represents 3 of the jungle contestants, including her sister. She had a heck of a job over there, which she did, looking after 3 different people. So she flew out there, and Emily's dad flew out there, and of course Kate was already out there in her role as bridge greeter. But this is the thing, you see, she never got to meet Emily on the bridge, because if you're in the last 2, and this is something that people probably don't fully realise, that if you're Noel and you've got out first, you've got 2.5 weeks in a 7-star hotel, beautiful weather, having a wonderful time. But if you're actually win or runner up, then you're straight out of the jungle and pretty much straight on a plane.
Well, if you win, you go across the bridge. If you're second, you don't get to go across the bridge.
No, you don't get to go across the bridge. So she was bridgeless in that respect. But I mean, don't get me wrong, she won't be complaining. She's had an extraordinary, life-changing time. And for anyone, if any of our listeners were watching it and voted for her, thanks very much. But above and beyond that, I hope you enjoyed the show. I mean, we're sort of missing it in our house. The adrenaline rush we had every evening was quite profound. But
and she's done really, really well. Lovely, lovely girl. Lovely, lovely family. Shame about the uncle.
Yeah, well, what can you say? Bob's your uncle.
Oh, no.
Partners in Crime was presented by Adam Croft and Robert Dawes and produced by Adam Croft. The theme tune was by the Caesareans. The Partners in Crime logo and imagery were designed by Stuart Beisch. Partners in Crime is sponsored by Kobo, your favourite local bookshop, perfected.